TV. It has been a while, but we are back and it's Monday and it's that Premier League review. You know what time it is. So let's talk about the Premier League. Look, Spurs will be mentioned today, unfortunately, depending on how we get onto it. But yeah, Mitch, Newcastle currently winning. Are you well?
Yeah, very well, very well. Had a little bout of illness, so that's why I'm looking a little tired. But I'm a happy man this evening. Couple of minutes to see out, and it's a big win at Old Trafford for us because we never win there. So I'm delighted.
So I'm going to bring out people in the order of happiness. So the next person I'm going to bring out is Sink. Sink, are you well?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Christmas period and all that, all the football. QPR ain't lose too many games, I don't think.
I think the last time we were on, QPR were in the bottom section, and now they're out of it, so they can't be doing too badly.
I mean, it's all roses and sunshine over there, mate.
All good, all good. Now, it's a toss-up between these two, but I'm going to bring out... Who should I bring out first? Stocky, are you good?
Yeah, wise choice, mate. Wise choice. I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good, man. All good, all good. West Ham?
They're not very good, are they? But it could be worse. You can't really say much because we're fucking dreadful, and you're still only a point ahead of
us. Wait, there's no need for that. There's really no need for that.
Yeah.
However, I ask you every single week before we come on.
I'm getting it in.
Lopetegui in or out?
I've had 6 months of trying to be kind to him. We should get rid. Problem is, we've got the same problem as Tottenham, and the supporters don't trust the board to appoint someone good.
So you're stuck with him. I've heard though, like while we're talking about, I've heard Potter has finally agreed to take over, and he's in the wings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we won't have to wait too long for Lopetegui to lose the requisite games.
So I think you got Man City this weekend, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
They've given him a blind that one, but if he loses the FA Cup game as well, and I think that's against Villa or someone like that.
Yeah. It's Villa at Villa Park. So
if he loses against Villa, apparently Potter is the guy that is waiting in the wings to take over. Would that be your choice?
In the know. To be honest, I don't really know, but I suppose look, it's got to be better than him at the minute.
Well, you say that, but I don't rate Potter at all. But we might even talk about West Ham in the next part. But let's get on to the main man, the ref, the man who's probably in the same mood as me, but Chris. Spurs, eh?
Spurs. Is that it? Can we just move on? My Christmas was fine until I decided to go to the City ground on Boxing Day and watch Spurs play. And yeah, unfortunately for me, I've been at all of our last 3 games. So, but I thought I'd try and embrace the mood by wearing a Christmas jumper. I was going to wear something in honour of Ange, but unfortunately, I don't have a clown outfit, so I went for this.
Quick question, yeah, because I believe we're going to be talking about Spurs. I think in the next half an hour a bit. But are you Ange in or out at this present moment?
I couldn't be out. I'm Ange as far out as possible. So just get rid of him. And nothing personal, right? He seems like a nice enough guy. I don't hate him personally, but objectively and factually, we are doing worse than when we had Christian Gross in charge, right? And that is, for anyone who's old enough to remember that, he's got a worse points per game this season than Christian Gross. I don't understand the argument, Marlon. I can't understand. Tell me, not getting into it now, but for the people who love him, what are the reasons why we think this is going to turn around? Because I don't see anything at all that makes me think this is going to get any better. But so yeah, absolutely, get him gone.
Look, I'm going to stick with you, right? Because you said out, right? And I just asked Stocky as well, but Stocky was like, I don't know who they're going to bring in. I don't trust the board. Where do you sit with that then? Who's going to come in?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing to say is that he is not the biggest problem at Tottenham. And if I can only have one person leave the club, it ain't Ange, right? It's Daniel Levy. Not a question.
Yeah.
I just think there's so many managers who do a better job with this squad. And just look at the league table, right? I mean, there are teams with worse squads than us doing far better.
You haven't answered my
And why
question,
is
though.
that? I like Iraola and
Not going to get him.
Nuno, right? I'm not saying I'd want Nuno back.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he's a better manager than Ange Postecoglou.
But the question is, right now in
Who do I want?
the situation where you've said you're out, so I completely look. I get why, but the question is, and this is the question everybody's asking at this precise moment. And guys, chip in on this. We're gonna start with this right now. Who is available? Right, because you mentioned Areola, but why is he going to leave Bournemouth for Spurs? That would be my question to you.
Just money, isn't it?
Yeah, but Spurs are not going to do that, are they? Like this is.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. Like the money for managers isn't huge, right, compared to players.
Yeah, but we haven't. Yeah, but when was the last time we took a manager from a club that was in contract? It was Poch.
Ange.
He wasn't out. His contract ran out.
But I get what you're saying, and
he was on a but his contract was up. Go and say that again, Mitch.
I get what you're saying, and you don't want to spend any money. But if you're getting rid of him now, you go to one of two clubs if you're looking in the Premier League. I'm going to sit here now and say I don't know managers from across the world, from across Europe, who's good or who's not. If you're looking at two in the Premier League that Tottenham could go and get, it's either Areola, who's already been mentioned, or Marco Silva from Fulham. Because regardless of what them two clubs think, Tottenham are a much bigger club. That's a move forward for both of their careers. So they're the two from the Premier League.
Areola, right now, Areola is probably in a better situation going forward, and there's a clear path that what Bournemouth are trusting him and what he's with. But I'm not debating this. My debate with what you guys are saying is Spurs are not going to go and pay another. They're going to have to pay off Postecoglou's £5 million contract, and then go to another club and try and negotiate in January. Let's say January, and negotiate to get a guy out of his contract. Tottenham do not do this.
What about Fonseca?
It cost. I just googled, mate. We paid $5 million to get Postecoglou.
Yeah.
So I don't. I think we would. I think the reason why we would is because Levy knows that the heat will be turned up on him, and it's what he always does. He does what he needs to do to try and deflect it away from him. So if that means going to pay 10 million or whatever it is for Iraola or Silva or somebody, I think he would do it. There's no reason why we shouldn't. Look, we paid 65 million for Solanke, 40 million for Archie Gray. What's 10 million for a manager?
This is Levy we're talking about, though. This is Levy.
Why not go for become available then?
Say that again, Mitch.
Why not go for Fonseca, who's just become available?
Well, that's the guy they wanted a few years ago. But he's again. So for Spurs right now, right, and this is why I'm going to start with Spurs. For Spurs right now, they are looking for someone in the same mould. This is what they've said as Ange, a bit like how Brighton do it, where they went from Potter to De Zerbi to Hertzler, right? So if Spurs are following the same mould, Fonseca is not the guy that Spurs should be going after. It's a bit like when people are saying right now, Allegri's available, go after Allegri. It's not going to happen, because if they're looking for the same sort of manager, they have to. Like Areola is probably the main one, because even Marco Silva doesn't play attacking football. He has a very slight defensive side to him. So Marco Silva is not the guy that Spurs, if they're following that, especially with the signings they're making, that's not the next guy to come in. So it becomes very difficult to go and get the guy that Spurs actually want in the middle of the season.
I get that, but isn't the whole point that Ange's way of playing isn't working? It's not done you any favours. It's not doing well. So you need a little tweak on what you want to do as a club, because you're not set up to play that way at the minute. So you either stick with Ange, give him time, give him money, let him change the whole squad, or you bring someone in suited to the squad.
I think it's pretty clear, because like, our fans didn't like Mourinho. They didn't like Conte. They don't like Ange. They don't like Ryan Mason. They didn't like Nuno.
This is the question. So, are we? And I'm going to ask the three above before I get to you, Chris. Are Spurs fans, because this is the one that keeps coming up, and even the infighting between Spurs fans. And the reason why I'm starting with Ange, because he's one of the biggest losers in this whole festive period, right? And that's why we've got into Ange. Is it a case of? I forgot what the question was now. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Is it a case of is Ange at the moment? Is he the right guy for Tottenham Hotspur? Are we entitled as fans that we think that we could do better than Ange? And any of you three can answer, because you guys, me and Chris are going to argue about this all day long, right? And we're probably quite similar on the agreement that Ange is not the right guy. But like he's just mentioned, we didn't like Mourinho, we didn't like Conte, we didn't like Nuno, right? And we now we're in the match. We don't like Ange either. So what are Spurs after?
Can I just step in, right?
Yeah.
So, in your most recent modern time, your most successful manager has been Pochettino, right?
Pochettino, yep.
So, do you think, right, had you guys just swallowed it and just gone with Pochettino this whole time through?
Don't sink, please.
No, I'm just asking. Do you think that he would have come out the other side and been able to get back to where he was, to Champions League, challenging for the
Go on, Chris. I'll let you answer that one.
No is the answer. No, I don't believe that, because I think Poch. I think part of what you just said is absolutely leads us to what the answer should be for where we are. But in terms of Poch, if we'd have kept him, for example, he wouldn't have been backed. He wasn't backed, and he wouldn't have been back going forward. And he's a good coach, like he improves players, which Ange doesn't. But he was also lucky, right? He was in the right place at the right time. Half of that Poch team was already there when he came in. He was I mean, how lucky do you have to be at a club when one of the youth players coming through is one of the world's best strikers? That's really lucky, right? And he was lucky. And he did really well with what he had, but he ain't going to be that lucky again. And he wouldn't have backed. I mean, we got Ndombele and Lo Celso and all that kind of stuff. So we would have tapered off under Poch, I think. I don't think we maintain a side that challenges for the league or challenges for the Champions League. However, we wouldn't have tailed off to this extent where we are now. We are setting factually, we are setting new lows we haven't been this bad for like 16 years. He's breaking all kinds of records every single weekend for how bad Tottenham are.
So I think if you answer the question in that way, then Ange has to go. Like, if the standards that you set as Tottenham fans, what you want to achieve, you want to win some silverware, and you want to be challenging for the league, and you want to be in the Champions League, then this isn't it. And he's not going to change.
But Sink.
Yeah.
So you say you're that's what you're saying to us, but is that realistic for us Spurs fans to be thinking?
Well, I think it is realistic, because if Ange is going to refuse to make any sort of changes to his style of play, and you guys expect to win a title, the two aren't conducive. Like, he plays entertaining football for the neutral fans, but
I don't even want that. I don't even expect us to be winning anything. I just don't want to be embarrassed on a regular basis and be the laughing stock of the league.
Well, you're not the laughing stock of the league. That's Man United.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go West Ham.
But the problem is that you're mid-table, so it's like you're right in the middle. So it's like you could actually win something this season. You don't know. You could win something in the cup, but you never. The main goal, what you want to actually achieve, is it won't be achieved. Like Champions League football, being relevant in the league, it's not realistic.
Okay, so Sink. Do you think, right? You're an outside looking in, right? So do you think Spurs right now, with the players they've got, forget the manager for a second, and the squad that's been provided to Ange Postecoglou, do you think it's good enough to even make the Champions League, or should he be doing a lot better, but he should be more in the European places, not in the Champions League? Because the squad he's got, is it even worth competing? Because let's be completely honest about the whole situation. Because we're all sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, we should be competing," but have we even got the squad to even anywhere near? Are we better than? And I'm going to get Mitch in this. Are we even better than Newcastle right now? Are the squads quite similar?
The problem is, Marlon, is that you've got Nottingham Forest sitting second. So if Nottingham Forest can get into that top four, why can't anyone else, if they have a little bit of due diligence?
Because Spurs fans had the guy sitting in the top four, and it wasn't good enough for Spurs.
But you've got to look at the culture at the club. Maybe it's the club.
There's a massive difference. There was a huge difference, Marlon, when we got Nuno, wasn't there?
Yeah, but
Like,
but
we were
had a
the only club who refused to let Nuno have his assistant manager.
Yeah, and this is the problem we're going to have.
Why did we do that?
Yeah, but this is the problem we're going to have if we try and bring in a new manager who's going to want to bring in his backroom staff. Because I think I've always said this, the biggest problem with Ange right now is he doesn't take his staff with him. So everyone who's there right now is learning on the job, right? So you've got a whole backroom staff that don't even know the man they're working with. Conte wanted to bring his staff in. Mourinho wanted to bring his staff in, and they've got they've got better world-class coaches, and we're now working with Jedniak, Matty Wells, and all these people. So is it relatively Ange's fault because he's got to work with someone like Ryan Mason? Go on, Mitch.
Like, my point on all of this is this might get me cancelled from this channel completely. There needs to be a bit
You're
of
a Newcastle
reality
fan,
check
it's fine.
from the fans
truth.
and from the board and from everybody at the club. Like, because at the minute, a lot of the Tottenham fans I speak to, and a lot of the way they speak about how they want to play and where they want to be, they talk like they're Chelsea or Arsenal. Like, that's not the case. You're not in that bracket, and you haven't ever really been in that bracket for the last 25 years. So I don't get why you have the same similar expectations. That'd be like me sitting here turning around and going, if Eddie Howe doesn't get us Champions League, he needs to go. It's not good enough. I want to see beautiful football. I'm going to be in the Champions League every year, and that's how it has to be, or he's got to go. And
I need to counter that, Marlon. I couldn't disagree more. Like, let me just reel off some games here. Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, Palace, Wolves, Ipswich, Leicester. 3 points we got from those games. We're not trying to be Chelsea or challenge for the league. We shouldn't get 3 points from playing those teams. That is abysmal, and that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, but that's Ange. Previous managers, I reckon, I'm without even looking into it, from teams in the same positions as them teams are currently now, have probably got more points, but have either been villainised by the fans or sacked by the board for other reasons other than that. And like, the level that Newcastle's and Tottenham's are at, they have to kind of accept that we're fighting at a certain level until we build. You've got to build slowly. Getting into the Champions League doesn't mean you've jumped a couple of steps up. It means you're ahead of the curve. So if you fall a couple of steps up, you've kind of got to suck it up and wait for the build to get back to where it needs to be.
And I don't disagree, but you've got to build with a manager who's capable of doing that, right? And I don't think Ange is whatsoever.
Oh, no, okay, I get that point. But it just seems that one of these managers over the years must have been capable, but they all seem to end up in the same and get a similar time.
I agree. Like, as a fan base, we are an absolute box of frogs. Like, we can't agree on anything as a fan base. So, I mean, I would look back and say, yeah, perhaps, you know, we were a bit like that with Mourinho and Conte. We find problems with every single manager, pretty much. And we should be a bit more calm about it. But the worst argument I see at the moment is, I can't get rid of Ange because I don't want us to sack another manager. That is a really bad reason if the guy you've got in charge is rubbish. Like, that is not a reason to keep Ange. He's a bad manager.
To keep a manager.
But I agree, he's rubbish. I don't think he's good enough for Tottenham. I don't think.
I mean, West Ham need a new manager very
managers
shortly. I mean,
have been good enough.
Stocky, would you take him at West Ham?
That's a great question.
No way.
Why not?
I would, because he's shit.
Yeah, but he's not, because we finished 5th last year. You have to remember that. Let's take this season out of the equation, right? You got to remember, he did finish 5th with Spurs last season, considering he lost Kane. As Spurs fans say, there's an aging son. He could do what? You couldn't do wonders with Kudos, Bowen, and unfortunately, Antonio's not here anymore.
After the new manager bounce, he was terrible. I'm not having this. Sorry.
Kudos.
Problem is with that,
and a different expectation as West Ham. It's not Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
but
I'm not happy with it.
The problem is with that, lad. Sorry to interject.
Really?
But
really, after our last few years, Marlon?
But I think Ange would get a better out of the West Ham squad that he's getting, that Lopetegui is. I'm not saying that he would get you Champions League football competing in Europe, but he would be getting a lot more than Lopetegui is.
All right, but one thing you're forgetting, guys, is that if Ange goes to West Ham, what is he going to do differently that he's doing at Spurs that he's going to do at West Ham? Is he going to change anything?
Do you know what? Weirdly enough, right? So let's take the summer. Let's take the summer transfer window. Lopetegui got the players he wanted. Let's take Ange. Ange wanted 3 players. He never got one of them. He wanted he wanted Conor Gallagher. He wanted Neto, and he wanted Solanke. He got Solanke because if you look at our starting 11 and who Ange has picked, only Solanke is the one that's starting week in, week out. That's different from last season. And last season was the last 10 games. I think we only won 2, and they were both against relegated teams. So you could blatantly see that the board haven't backed him. Where West Ham, we're giving credit where credit's due. They've balled back Lopetegui this summer. So that's why everyone's looking at Lopetegui and go, you got the players you needed. And actually everyone was talking about how good of a window that West Ham had. But yet the players are not performing.
Again, you're forgetting the main problem.
I'll have my little interjection. I'll have my interjection there.
Go on.
He's not going to change what he's doing. So people already know how to play against Ange. That's the problem. That's his problem. He doesn't have any sort of plan B or C. You can't play the same way in the Premier League. You can't do that because managers that aren't in Europe get a whole week to prepare to play against you and believe they're going to watch footage and go through shape and go through hours of, all right, how are we going to play against Spurs? This is what we're going to do. And then the worst thing is that people have already laid out the blueprint of how to play against Spurs. So it becoms easier for these teams.
But Spurs didn't play that way yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm going to back Ange ever so slightly against Sink's point. He has made tweaks.
He has.
A few times this season now. Yeah. But his tweaks is what have told me he's not very good because his tweaks have been just as useless as the original plan.
All right, so then
and that's what tells me he's rubbish. And for me, I ran this rhetoric earlier in the season saying he doesn't want to change. Everybody's figured out the high line, and someone turned around and said to me, "Do you know what? The high line hasn't been the problem this season." So I've watched a few Spurs games, and he's made changes in a few of the games, and I give him props for that for making the changes. But the changes have been rubbish, which is now what's got me sat of saying he's just not a good enough manager for the Premier League. Full stop. This isn't a Tottenham thing. He's not a Premier League football manager.
Yeah, and just to rubber stamp that was the game against Liverpool and just the positioning of your fullbacks against a team like Liverpool, like that was absolutely wild. And then leaving Archie Gray to defend against that Liverpool front line is absolutely ludicrous. Like, why would you do that? Why would you encourage your players to do that against an informed team that are full of confidence?
Yeah, but Sink. So this is where now Spurs fans, right? And I think Chris can back me up on this. There were Spurs fans saying they would have preferred to lose 6-3 than to lose 2-1.
No.
What in the hell?
No, mate. There were Spurs fans.
It was wild.
It's just silly.
The one that was really mental was the Spurs fans more voted to lose 6-3 than to win 1-0.
Defended 1-0. A Conte 1-0. It was a Conte Mourinho 1-0, and Spurs fans said they'd rather lose 6-3.
Where was this?
So this is the problem with your club. All over the place. You got a chairman who basically is like getting away with not fully investing everything into the club that he possibly could, and then the fans are just like blaming. Like half are blaming him, and then half are like blaming the players and the manager, and it's just not a consistent.
So it's really weird because I think hopefully I'm wondering if Sean's going to come on, but Sean actually released a video today where he spoke to Spurs fans in the stadium, and the consensus was all Ange in, this is people at the stadium, and that Levy's done a pretty good job considering.
Yeah, no, he's not done a bad job. Like I said, like you're in the Premier League, you make a lot of money. Like no one will ever try and take your best players and think they will just run them up. Teddy Sheringham, Campbell. That will never happen again at Spurs. But in terms of actually, getting back to a Champions League final, well off.
I'll just make one more point just for you guys who aren't Spurs fans because you might not be aware of this, but if you look at like the form table, if you like, since the 1st of November last season through to now, 14 months, there's only 2 teams worse than us. We're in the bottom 3. It's a 17-team table because 3 got relegated, 3 came up. So of the 17 teams that have been in the division for those 14 months, Spurs are 15th out of 17. Sorry, Stocky, but West Ham are one of the 2 below us. But that is it. Only West Ham and
That
yeah,
doesn't surprise me.
But yeah, he doesn't want Ange.
I don't blame him.
Marlon, chill your boots, mate. I know you're trying to take the heat off you. There's a difference, mate.
No, but in all seriousness, like I get what everyone's saying, and look, I get it. Spurs fans are split on this, right? Very, very split. But like even me and Chris are quite split on what should be the next thing. But let's take West Ham over this festive period right now. Lopetegui. Mm-hmm. Now he's got until what? Like I said, he's got until Villa.
Yeah.
But why should he not? So let's take Areola last year. Yeah, Areola at the beginning of last year was sitting in the bottom 3. I think he'd won 1 game, but now Spurs fans are asking for this guy to be our manager. So why is Lopetegui not being given the time? Or is it his reputation at Wolves that is coming back? Because this is West Ham that have gone from Moyes to.
But do you know what though, Mark? I think there is a lot of similarities between the West Ham fan base and the Spurs fan base. I think there's a lot of similarities.
Absolutely.
Shut up,
We're so alike.
A lot of fans
we hate each other.
Unrealistic to the level that they actually are. Their team.
You're like our little brother, Stocky. We just kind of go, yeah, you kind of want what we want, but you can't have it.
Marlon, that's why we think you're all dickheads.
This is kind of what I was saying earlier. You say West Ham are your little brother, but you're like twins. It's a similar.
Oh, come on. We're not twins. We win. At least we win something.
Talk to me, Marlon, about winning things.
They've won more recently than we have.
Yeah, I know. You just tried a little man off a European champion from 2 years ago. How have you tried to do that?
Look,
I'd love the Conference League, mate. I'd love the Conference League, or I don't know, any cup at all.
Exactly. To be fair, West Ham made that cup irrelevant.
Okay, but Lopetegui, should he be given the time? Should he be given the time?
I genuinely don't think so. I've watched a hell of a lot of it.
No, Lopetegui.
No, I've really watched a lot of it, and I've 6 months. I can't see what his plan is, and if he has got a plan, it's working really badly. A general barometer is how many players have improved, of how many have regressed, and a lot of them have regressed. He had an awful, and when you said earlier on he was backed, he wasn't backed as a person. It was the sporting director who made a majority of the signings.
Yeah.
It's almost, and it doesn't seem very coherent. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. I weren't impressed with how it started, and I couldn't really spot anything, and it's just getting worse. So, I mean, I tried to bite my tongue and hold it out, but it's just not very good. I'm not expecting us. I'm not expecting us to win every week, but fucking, I wouldn't mind a bit of fight. There's not even any fight. I don't think we even got anyone booked yesterday. I think that's what annoyed me most. If you're getting battered, at least you go and let someone know about it. And we didn't even do that. It was just so listless. It looked like a group of players that weren't playing for him.
Okay,
so we might as well go.
So let's take the results over this festive period. You drew 1-1 with West Ham. You drew 1-1 with Brighton. Okay, which fair result or not a fair result? Or the most boring game ever?
No, they battered us.
So they battered you, and you got a thing. You beat Southampton 1-0.
Made them look good for about 40 to 50 minutes, and they're dreadful, and we made them look good. They should have taken their chances, but they're terrible in both boxes. And
then obviously you lost to Liverpool 5-0 at home. Is it because you're so bad at home is the reason why you're looking at Lopetegui not to be there?
No, it's not. We're not. I think we're just bad. I don't think it's a home and away thing. We look at there was an upgrade in some areas, but just none of it works. It's been 6 months and it doesn't look coherent. It still looks like there are a bunch of players when you go out on a Saturday afternoon, you got a few ringers in. They're still working out each other's name. We're like that after 6 months, and it's just not good enough. And they don't look like they're trying very much. And they're just small things before you go into tactics, where players are, what the idea is, how do we build up things. They just don't look like they're working for each other or him, and that's damning. I mean, that's really bad.
So, question to the rest of you is: are West Ham again like Spurs? Are they thinking they're more entitled? Are West Ham in the position that we kind of all expect them to be? Because personally, there's been a couple games I think they should have won, but I'm looking at recently, they're still picking up results in certain games, and they're being West Ham. They wanted attacking football. Why are they complaining?
To be
It's
fair,
not attacking football, man.
I would say, like me and Stocky had a little chat about this the other day, and the lineups were announced for the Liverpool game, and I was in the camp of he's tried to play his way, and it's not worked. So he's thought, you know what, I'm going to suck this up, and I'm going to play a little bit more Moyes-like and shut it up at the back. And me and Stocky discussed having Aaron Wan-Bissaka play left back against Mo Salah. So when I saw the lineups come up, I was like, great idea. But the way they tried to actually implement it on the pitch, he might as well have been playing right wing because he was nowhere near Mo Salah. And that would have been the whole point of putting him in that area of the pitch. But I've got to go against Stocky a little bit here. And I think that he does need more time. He's tried to play his way. He's now decided that he's going to go back a little bit towards what Moyes did, shut it up a little bit at the back. And they got hammered by the best team in the league by a country mile yesterday. So that's not a barometer. The next few weeks will be, but that is not a barometer for where they are. Like the other two games against Aston Villa and against Brighton and against Southampton, that is on par for what they should have got from this Christmas period. Because you look at the pictures and you think 4 points is on par. You're definitely not expecting 9. So I think he needs a little more time. I genuinely think he needs a little more time.
Sean, welcome. Sean's a Spurs fan, guys, by the way. So he's like me and Chris.
Evening, Sean.
Evening, people. How's everyone doing? Can you guys hear me okay? I'm dabbling with new technology.
Clear as anything, Sean. You're clearer than us.
This is evmux.com. What are we doing here?
Mate, Sean, we changed, man. We don't do StreamYard no more, mate. We changed. This is slightly better and cheaper than StreamYard.
No, I'm sure it's phenomenal, but like you're catching me off guard. I was like, I've just had, you know, I'm dealing with like the worst life hack in the world, and in order to get online with you lot, I've had to download things that I don't know what. I've given away more permissions than I've ever given to my family. And I'm a little bit kind of weirded out right now. I lost my entire life savings like in the last 6 months to hack, and I'm giving away permissions willy-nilly to talk about Tottenham or whatever the fuck this is. It's great to see you. How's everyone doing? Is everyone okay? Good to see you.
Yeah, very good, man. Very good. Hope you're
good, mate. Good to see you.
Sean, Sean, we are talking about Lopetegui and Ange at the moment, right? And so obviously we're talking about first of all how us Spurs fans are so indifferent. We all kind of want different things, but West Ham were in the sense of West Ham wanted something different from Moyes, got something different from Moyes, and yet they're still not giving him time.
There's so many similarities, isn't there? There's so many similarities, right? It's mind-boggling. I think that the world needs to the online community. Here's what I would say, just quickly, right? But I'm not sure of the specifics. But forgive me for the West Ham fans amongst us here. I don't know the specifics of what's going on with your challenges. Obviously, I'm familiar with the bigger picture stuff, but your intricacies, I don't know. But what I would say is, as a Tottenham fan that spends most of my life thinking heavily about what the online space in the Tottenham community feels about life and within Tottenham, and then yesterday after the game, I did a little walkthrough, a one take. I specifically did it as a one-take walkthrough of our post-match goal line bar, just to see whether or not random people here and there, and I couldn't be accused of like filtering out the people I selected after the fact as being like, adhering to an agenda. So I just went, speak to them. I got told to F off a few times, all that stuff. It's all on the thing. But the online community is very different to the real world community in terms of like the people that go to the games versus the people that spend all their time thinking and that will dedicate that much time to being online. And I don't know the West Ham specifics, but what I would say is that if there's a West Ham community that's online, the hardcore people that are online, they probably don't represent the same overarching narrative of the people that dedicate enough of their mindset towards going to West Ham, but maybe not spending 24 hours a day thinking about it, where they're willing to spend hours and hours and hours listening to people like us talking about our teams, you know? Because I thought that everybody was Ange out. I thought everybody was Levy out at Tottenham. But I spent 20 minutes walking through the goal line bar and I couldn't find a single person that felt the same as the 99% of people that are online with us in the Tottenham community. So I'm not sure if that's a roundabout way of saying that, Marlon. I'm sorry, that's a rant. Like, generally speaking, I don't know the specifics of West Ham. I think Lopetegui has been a massive disappointment. If I'm a West Ham fan, from what I see, I look in and go, David Moyes, he did well for you guys, right? The first trophy you've ever won. First trophy you won for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
But he's David Moyes, right? He's boring football. Like you want more. You want to be entertained. But then the next guy comes in that promises a little bit more, and nothing really changes apart from the lack of success that you had. You know what I mean? So like,
less.
Yeah. So like, I don't know what the average West Ham fan feels, but I'm probably on board with the idea that the average online West Ham feels negatively towards him, and probably also felt really negative towards David Moyes. But probably West Ham fans should remember that David Moyes was responsible for a lot of good at your club that probably would be overly forgotten too quickly.
It's not the West Ham way, though, is it?
Tell me about it.
I just make one point back to Sean. I think there's another level as well with match-going fans. So I think you go to the stadium as you did. I was there as well. It's different, I've got to be honest, in the area I sit. But anyway, I think you get a slightly more diluted view at the home games because there's quite a lot of sort of whatever you want to call them. And I'm not knocking these guys personally, but a lot of people who are kind of not necessarily going all the time. They're there as a one-off and they're maybe less invested. I think when you go to the away games,
that's what I'm talking about, though.
More concentrated view.
Yeah, because like the people that go, like if you went to Bournemouth away as a Tottenham fan or West Ham fan, right, the amount of loyalty points you're going to have to get a hold of that allocation means that you're going to have to be in the top 0.1. Yeah. Right, and then I got to keep that for a second. Sorry, did I say something offensive?
No, that was me. Sorry, carry on.
If you're part of that 0.001% of fans that have got enough points to be able to go to any game, then you are going to be by a proxy of that someone that goes to Hungary, to Turkey, to wherever, right? You're going to go away, and so by a proxy of that, you're like, it's just natural. It's going to take up more of your life thinking about Tottenham, not just like mentally, like, oh, how do I feel about the team, the manager, but also like my money is going towards Tottenham. My wife is pissed off all the time because I'm going abroad every Thursday, every Wednesday, and I don't get back till Saturday. My kids are losing out. Or it becomes a part of your life. If your club is not delivering things that keep you happy, then your annoyance of what they're delivering is going to influence and impact your everything else that you do, right? Whereas if you're a season ticket holder that's got enough money to go, yeah, I want to go to Tottenham on a Saturday, but you know what, on a Monday morning I've got work, my wife's got ill, all that crap, right? So like there's just it's a different relationship with the football club and how it influences you. So I do recognize that there is a correlate, it's not linear, but it's certainly correlated to like the amount of money or time or investment that you have. And if the club isn't delivering, then you're more likely to be on the negative stance of what the club is delivering for you, whether you're West Ham or you're Tottenham or you're Arsenal or you're anybody that isn't Man City right now or probably Liverpool in the next season or two or Chelsea over the last 5 years. Everybody else, if you spend a lot of time thinking about your team and a lot of money and you're dedicated and your schedule and everything is influenced by that more than anything else, then you're more likely going to focus on the negative. But if you're someone that can take it or leave it and you're a season ticket
I agree.
then
I agree, but just let me make clear as well that although I am very much Ange out, I'm not trying to paint the away fans either as they're all Ange. They're not. Like I was at the Forest game, but
They'll probably leave you out, though, right? They definitely leave you out.
Although there's an apathy sweeping through the away fans, I think. As far as Ange goes, though, there were literally arguments between people on the way out. Ange out, Ange in. So I'm not trying to represent them as the away fans all Ange out, but I think there's probably more, exactly what you just said, there's more concentration of fans with perhaps slightly more extreme views because they're more invested than some of the home fans. Of course, that those people are a subset of the home fans, but there's a lot more people who aren't that worried about it because they're only going once a season or whatever.
So, just to interject there, lads. So then, which fans have the most influence then in order to cause to force the hand to make the decision? Who is it? The online fans? Is it the away fans? Is it the fans that go to the home games? Which set of fans, which group can
have the most influence?
Yeah,
it's the people that can recognize. It doesn't matter about your specific stance. For me, and I thought about this a million. Sync is it? Sync, yeah. Love that question. I would make this argument to every person in the Tottenham fan base. I don't know who you support, Sync, but anyone that wants more change, what you have to do is stop talking to your base and start talking to people that are the people that you think are the problem, who don't agree with you because they're less interested, they're less moderate, the people that you think don't care as much as you do. You need to recognize that the only way you get change is by bringing them to you, right? And so if you say you're the problem because you don't agree with me, you're never going to win those people over. What you should do is say, I hear you. Whatever it is that you're on board, whatever the reason why they don't agree with you, you find some sort of, you need like a way to like spin the story to say, I hear the reason why you don't feel with me, but let me meet you in the middle somehow where I acknowledge the reasons why you're okay with it. And then if you don't do that, if you don't even start by saying, I hear you, but now let me try to bring you over.
Yeah, you're not even
if you just start by going, nah, if you don't get me, then fuck you. Right? You're never going to win those people, right? But the way that you get the solution that you want is by bringing more people over. And if you're hard on this side or this side, then the only way that you get your way is by bringing more of the opposite in. And the normal way that you do that from a psychological perspective is to say, like, can we find middle ground? And then once you find that middle ground, then you can get into their ear and say, there's more action, there's more reason for you to be over here. But if you start by telling them that they're the problem, they ain't never going to be on your side. So that's the problem for me.
So that's the middle ground. And the middle ground are the results, the losses.
Exactly.
Once the losses come in thick and fast, then the decision will be...
No. Because the losses are like what's going to happen anyway, right? But who do you support, Sync?
I'm a QPR fan.
Fuck, man, I don't even know whether I'm not even sure how to.
That's why. They're
17th in the championship. It's fine.
I've been to the depths and hell and back.
Yeah, fuck, man. If I was you know what? There's only one problem here. The person that sold Eze. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem. No, I'm kidding. Because you guys have got a different. You guys have got a different set of rules. Like, yeah, I don't know how to solve your issue, but who's the West Ham guys amongst us here? Who's the West Ham?
Stocky's the West Ham guy.
Stocky, right? So for me, man, I don't know if you represent like the version of Levy outers amongst Tottenham fans, but I've been trying to say to the people that are Levy out, like they look at me, who represents they think I'm the opposite of them. Like if I'm not Levy out, then I'm Levy in. And I'm not Levy out, but not because I think that Levy isn't a problem. I just think that their inability to acknowledge that there's other things at play that are responsible for why Tottenham find it difficult to win trophies, right? So, like, for example, if Daniel Levy is the reason why Tottenham don't win trophies, then why is it that Aston Villa don't win trophies? And Newcastle and Ipswich and Derby and Wolves and Forest and Newcastle and all these teams that used to be just as successful as Tottenham did in the 90s and prior, all these teams were just as successful back in the day. But these days, since Daniel Levy took over, there's only 5 teams that ever win anything. 3 of them always won the shit. They always were always the big boys: United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. And then there's 2 other teams that popped up: Chelsea and City. And both of those teams were nowhere, right? But what's the common theme there? Money and exorbitant expense from owners that didn't have the same relationship with profit as everyone else has always had, which is we need to find it. These guys came in with more money in their pocket or in the ground than has ever been printed in the lifetime of football. And that's fine, right? But the rules were then built after the horse bolted, the doors were closed. And for people that are like, Levy's the problem, I'm like, okay, cool. He might be the problem. He might be the problem within Tottenham. But if you're telling me that there's nothing else outside of Tottenham that's also responsible, then why is it that those other teams don't win anything? And then if you ain't going to acknowledge that as a reasonable factor, then you're never going to win me over, because it comes across like your argument is biased and thin. If you were to say, yeah, you know what? Those things are real. We can't really control that. What we can ask is for Daniel Levy to do more. I'd be on board it. But instead, you have people that are Levy out saying, nah, Sean, you're the fucking problem, bro, because you're convincing people that we're wrong. And I'm saying, you're not wrong. You're not telling the whole story. And if you want to win me over and people that feel my way that aren't idiots, we're not fucking morons. So stop treating us like we are. If you want us to join you, how about acknowledge that we're not crazy and that there are things outside of football or outside of Tottenham that are also reasons why we don't win very much. And neither do QPR, another do West Ham, another does Villa, or all these other teams. Daniel Levy is not responsible for why Newcastle hasn't won shit in 50 years. And that's if you ain't going to say that, if you're not even going to acknowledge that, then your argument looks thin. And until you do, you're never going to have me on your side. If you said it, if you acknowledged it, I'll be with you. But until then, work on your own argument and then worry about me. Until you figure out your own strength, then you can then turn on me if I don't agree with you then. But until that point, I'm sorry.
Mitch, let me just bring in Mitch, because Mitch is obviously a Newcastle fan and he's obviously just been taken over, right? And obviously you now have the constraints of not being able to spend. And obviously you see the way Spurs is being run, and that's how you guys have now got to act in a certain way.
Yeah.
What do you think the next steps are for your owners to get to a point where they are competing with the Chelseas, the Manchester Cities of this world?
Well, for our owners, they were waiting on the related party sponsorship rules, and that was 100% what they were waiting on when it comes to training ground sponsorship, when it comes to training wear sponsorship, when it comes to all kinds of loads of different places are not sponsored at Newcastle at the minute. They're waiting for the final outcome of that. So if all of that goes against us, we will go down pretty much exactly the same route as Tottenham have. The plans are already set for a new stadium. It's going to be state of the art. It's going to be one of them that we can have NFL games. We can have every single thing at the stadium we can possibly have to bring in all of the revenue. And
but you know the difference is with that is that with Newcastle is a single stadium in Newcastle, whereas Tottenham has to compete with all these other stadiums. Newcastle doesn't have to compete, though. Everyone will go to Newcastle all of the time.
If our owners had bought Tottenham just after their stadium was finished, they would right now be an absolute powerhouse because off of the back of what Levy has done commercially.
No, they couldn't though. That's not true. That's not true, Mitch. Apologies, buddy. But the only benefit, the way that FFP works, is you can spend whatever your club generates within the money that the club generates, right? But Newcastle are unique in that you have this Goliath of a one city football club. And you've got a stadium that's big, but it's not really no one wants to go into a stadium no one wants to go in. Beyonce ain't going to turn up at Newcastle next week, right? Because it's not like
she went to Sunderland.
She will,
and that's a proper shithole.
No, but what I'm saying is, hear me out here. She Daniel Levy saw all of the stuff that was going on ahead of time, and people don't give him that credit for the foresight around the rules. He set all that stuff up. Saudi Arabia coming in, Saudi Arabia got more money in the ground, right, than has ever been printed in the history of mankind. They got all that money. They're quadrillionaires probably, right, in terms of reality. But that you can't spend a penny of it right now because of the fact that your club only generates X amount of revenue, and therefore you can only spend X amount of your percentage, like 75% or 70% in 2 years' time, right? That's the limit, including your squad cost ratios, your agents' fees, all that stuff, right? Same rules as everybody else. The only reason that Chelsea can do what they did was because of a very unique circumstance whereby Abramovich was allowed to leave the UK because of his relationships with Russia, and he got to write down £1.5 billion of debt, when that would never happen in any other walk, not only in football, but you can't do that in any other business. I'm a guy who has 5 businesses. I know how like the debt system works. Like you take advantage of it, but you can't just write it down and walk away and sail off in the sunset on a £100 million yacht. That doesn't work. It only was allowed to happen for him because of his relationship to Putin, because of the Ukraine scenario. And that 1 billion, 1.5 billion that they spent, that's never going to be replicated by you guys or by anyone who takes over Tottenham or anybody else. It won't happen ever again. Anyone who thinks it does, sorry, read the rules, read the room. It's a load of waffle. It's a load of absolute nonsense. I will bet you my life that is the case. But
that's not quite what I was saying, though. What I was saying is because where us as a club didn't move forward for 14, 15 years under Mike Ashley commercially at all. So after your stadium was built, if they had bought into Tottenham Hotspur, they were coming into a base where they had that commercial growth that would allow them to spend not exactly what they wanted to spend, but they could maximize what they spent because of how much you bring in commercially.
No,
we don't have that luxury at all from any aspect of our club. There's no commercial anything that we can make any little pennies on at all at the minute.
I agree with you on that, but again, there's context to it, right? There's context to it. If someone came in and took over Tottenham right now, the only way that Tottenham fans could get on board, not obviously Saudi's done, but let's say Kuwait is the lowest, the next lowest hanging fruit within that kind of oil money scenario, right? There's not many. There's the Sultan of Brunei. They've got a fund, but they're not interested in football. You've got the Norwegian fund, but they're not interested in football. Kuwait is the only way that Kuwait could come into a team like Tottenham, take over from Daniel Levy, and where Tottenham could sit there and do something to what Manchester City did, is if they were to pay off the entire debt that is still attached to Tottenham Hotspur, which is at the moment is 700 million. And then even then, the only benefit of doing that is that Tottenham Hotspur as a fund that is as a team that is participating within the current rules of FFP, is that they would not have to pay the debt on the interest on the debt that they currently have to pay, which is £25 million a year. So this notion that like someone could come into Tottenham now with all the infrastructure that Daniel Levy's already taken care of, the stadium, the training ground, all that stuff, the benefits in terms of Tottenham's transfer budget, I've already crunched the numbers. Again, you guys don't know me, but like I've got an investment banking background, so I've done all this. This is what I do on my channel. The overarching benefit in terms of budgetary increase would be about £75 million maximum, more than we already spend per year. It's not the like hundreds of millions that you think that could happen with Newcastle. What could happen, and why you guys need to be patient with it, is the fact that when you do get the green light to transform that stadium and to turn your training ground, all of that stuff, your owners could spend £2 billion if they wanted to on gentrifying Newcastle, on buying up the entire property landscape everywhere around, turning it into hotels and apartments, all that shit. None of that will ever count against your revenue, and the revenue that can come from that stuff in rentals of flats, of apartments, of hotels, of training ground, of all of that stuff can then generate revenue that can lift your number of revenue. And then as a of that, you can then spend 70% of that going forward. So your owners are far better off taking over Newcastle with the amazing amount of juice that there is in that city, because it's a brilliant city. But they would be far better off doing that there than they would right now taking over Tottenham. So it's not quite as you think it is, Mitch. You're not wrong in what you're saying, but the juice versus the squeeze conversation, they're so much better off doing what they're doing in Newcastle. It would just take you guys a few years for that to play out. But Tottenham, we don't have the same offering to new owners like you guys do.
Can I just make one point to Sean before we don't want this to just be about Spurs, but some of the conversation that frustrates me about Levy is it's always about results and spending. I think there's enough for me personally as a Tottenham fan there as to why I don't want him and Enoch as our owners from other stuff, the champion, the Super League, the way that he's squeezing concessions at both ends, the way that there's no history really at the ground. There's nothing, none of that. I've got to know quite some of the ex-players quite well over the last few months. The way that they talk, but they talk publicly, understandably, the way that they talk about how disrespectful he is to them. All of that stuff, I think there's enough. Even if we were winning the league, I couldn't get on board with him because of the way he treats all of that. So, and I don't think
that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. So the last thing I'll say, sorry, I didn't mean to come on and take over. I'm so sorry, Marlon. The last thing I'll say, man. Listen, Chris, anyone that's Levy out for any number of reasons, I'm all on board it, man. I'm more than open-minded to a new owner. But in terms of like just as a comparison to what Mitch is talking about with Newcastle, with QPR, like there's a bunch of different things that are available to those owners or those fans of those clubs than are available to Tottenham. Daniel Levy's taken a lot of the low-hanging fruit, is all I was saying. I'm sorry, I'll step back now and listen to you guys.
I'll just say one more thing on it. I totally agree with you, Sean, on it like now, as the rules are now. When we were bought, I would argue with any fan in the country that we were the next best club to take over if you had a lot of money and you wanted to spend. But the rules were changed just after we bought the club. So my point of view is as the rules are now. If it was when they actually bought the club, 100%, we were the best placed club for that because it's a one club sort of area, and the northeast, if you look at the map, is a massive area.
No, I don't think the rules are touchy, mate. I think you guys have just got to be a little bit patient with the process. Like
the rules now from a quick turnaround to a long build.
I think Newcastle fans will be patient anyway.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I agree with you. The rules changed, but the rules changed in a way that have not diluted the effect of having the wealthiest family in the world, right, owning your club. And if they still maintain the intention to do what they can do, then they can gentrify Newcastle, and that's not music to everyone's ears. People that hate gentrification is not going to please them. But like the idea of the Newcastle Football Club getting revenue streams from X, Y, and Z, it might not be NFL, but you could just buy up half of Newcastle and then rent it out, right? Rent it out, and all that shit comes back in revenue that is off the books but comes in on the books. In 5 years' time, Newcastle will be an absolute Goliath. You'll be fine. You'll be absolutely
It's just flipped the way they wanted to do it. They wanted to make the club successful and then do all the stuff around it. Now they need to do all of that stuff to make the club successful. That's the only change the rules have done.
Agreed. Sorry for coming in and being a fucking typical Sean Butler.
Right, we're an hour in. Can we get into the show now?
Look, there's so many points Sean brought up, but I'm not going to bring them up today because obviously this is a Premier League show. But I wanted to compare because obviously Stocky, you obviously have the whole Lopetegui thing with us, Ange, and obviously Mitch, the whole takeover with you and us as well is quite very similar. And I just wanted to bring that up in the sense of what's going on. But what I really wanted to bring up, and Sean, quickly on this because I've heard you over the last couple of days. Are you Ange in or out?
Mate, you know what? I'm not Ange in. Like I'm not going to sit here and say like I don't believe in his system. I mean, I love the idea of it, but I think that he's. I've lost faith in it. But I've also.
I want to hear you say it.
Yeah, no, I'm not Ange in. I'm certainly not Ange in. But Ange out means you want him gone now. I think you have to give him the fair shake, and the shake requires for me that you let him fail, I guess, at the cup. And until he does, I'm not gonna join that bandwagon. But yeah, I'm like everybody else, man. Like I want to see more adaptability, but yeah, that's how I'm at.
So the reason why I asked the question is, let's take Manchester United into consideration. This will be the last part before we go into VAR. Now, they've changed their manager, and they all thought Ten Hag was the problem. However, they have probably come out of this festive period just shy of Spurs being what. Like, I thought Spurs were worse, but Man United have been just.
Oh no, Man United are the worst. Man United are the worst.
So my question is, and this goes to the Spurs and West Ham fans: is a change of manager really the way forward? When you look at the mess that Man United are in, and let's talk about this on a bigger picture. Stocky, you want your ball out, your fans want your ball gone, and Spurs are 50-50 on the whole Levy stuff. So does a new manager really coming in? Does it really change the fortunes? And Chris, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, the whole Almiron situation. And the reason, because you were very quick to be, because me and you were arguing earlier about Ange being Ange and what you want him gone now, and I'm saying you got to give the man a bit of time.
He's not had any transfer window. He's been there a few weeks. I mean, if this was Ange's results in the first few weeks, I'd be like, give him some time. But Ange's had 3 windows. He's been here 18 months. It's a completely different situation. I mean, Sean's just saying you can't kind of fully maybe conclude until he's been knocked out the cups. Fair enough. So you definitely can't with Amorim, right? He's been there like 3 weeks. So I get that it's appalling. Apparently, he's just said in a press conference that they're in a relegation fight, which is a bit of concerning if you're a United fan.
They are in a relegation battle right now. They're in a relegation battle right now, for sure. And I'd love to see it.
They're in relegation form, that's for sure.
But so is Spurs.
I don't think they're that bad. But, I mean, they're bad. Don't be wrong. I just don't think they'll drop down to that level. But, look, Amorim has got a free pass, hasn't he? At least until the end of the season, in my opinion.
Do you get a free pass at Man United, though?
Yeah. This Man United, you do. This Man United, you do, Mitch. Like that for years, we've spoke about how poor Man United have been under countless managers. Nothing's changed; it's still the same. And this is what I said when Amorim came in. Until they changed the culture at the club, like doing things like sacking Ashworth so quick after signing him up. It's just so many chaotic decisions that are made, and it just doesn't seem like things are well thought through. Whereas now they have to like just sit this one through.
Okay, all right, I get that, and we say that he's on like a free pass, yeah. So he's currently on under a point a game. They're on 22 points with 19 games left. That leaves them under the magic 40-point mark everybody's always spoken about. Can he really get that much of a free pass?
If you get relegated,
doesn't, mate, but puts them on 44 points.
What, 22 plus 19?
19 games, they got 22 points. So after 38 games, they'll have 44, right?
No, 22 doubled is 44, so that's 22.
Yeah, they've got, but we're halfway through the season.
They'll be on 39.
Are they getting better though?
Amorim is currently on the under a point a game. Amorim's currently on the under a point a game. So over 19 more games, he's going to get under 19 points.
19 points.
You've got
double 22 from 19 to make that work.
How many Premier League games has he managed?
8, 9, I think now.
So.
But
there's
a new manager bounce. Where's the new manager bounce? Never arrived.
No, it did arrive. It did arrive. It was very, very short lived.
It arrived.
It was under Van Nistelrooy.
Played Marlon.
It was, and the thing is, Van Nis had a little manager bounce at Leicester as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you can't give Ruben Amorim Ten Hag's points and say that we're just going to double 22 to make 44.
But you can't seriously extrapolate. But equally, it's mad to extrapolate an 8-game period and go, that's what they're going to do for the rest of the season, right?
Yeah,
why?
You don't know what's going to happen.
What's he going to change that's going to make that much difference?
Well, he's got a transfer window for a start.
He's got a transfer window.
Yeah, but United have got no money. They've got no money.
They haven't. That's the thing. Hopefully they can.
That is no magic.
They can't do anything. They cannot do a thing in the window as it currently stands. For them to be able to free up some funds, let's be honest. Sir Jim Ratcliffe So Jim Ratcliffe comes in, right? United fans were like, "Oh, get rid of these Glazers, get everyone out. Anyone but him will do," which is always a dangerous mindset because the devil you know can sometimes be better than the devil you don't. And with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he comes in, and one of the little things that he did, I don't know if you guys know this, there's people that are like 60 years old that have been 25-year stewards. Like they get paid £50 a game these days. Maybe it was £30 before, £20 before that, £10, whatever. They had bonuses. Like if you do 10 games in a row, you get an extra £100 bonus. And so Jim Ratcliffe, one of the very first things that he did was said, "Oh, we're going to scrap that bonus because we've got to find a way to pay for Marcus Rashford."
I think that's more of a ploy. And so when they sell Rashford, it's like he needed to be sold.
But Marcus Rashford, you can't. How can you sell a guy?
Doing stuff like
That's
that.
it's not
It's
good.
going to happen 6 months
It's not
down the
good.
line.
It's not
How
good
can
at
you
all.
sell you can't sell a guy just because you don't want him anymore. If he doesn't want to, if no one else is going to pick up his 400 grand a week paycheck, £400,000 a week paycheck that he still has 3.5 years left on the ticket. No
Oh, yeah.
one's picking that up, and he's not gonna, like, just like with Ndombele at Tottenham, we couldn't sell the geezer because he's like, I want my 200 grand a week, and no one's picking that up, right? No one's picking up the 200. Is anyone going to pick up the 400?
No.
Any United fan who thinks that the United can just sell him and that he's going to accept losing 50, 60, 70%, why would he do that? There's no.
They'll end up doing exactly what they've done with Sancho and Chelsea with Sterling. Right, he'll probably go on loan, and they'll still be paying 70% of his wages.
Exactly that, right? So he might go on loan to Saudi Arabia, or he might go on loan Paris, maybe, wherever, someone like that, right? And they'll go, okay, we'll pay you 150 of the 400. So United have still got to pay 250 grand a week.
But at least they're getting 100 something instead of getting nothing.
Yeah, so they're getting a little bit back. But
I feel like we've gone massive off tangent here, to be fair, because we're talking about Rashford's wages and stuff like that. But in the pure playing staff of Man United and Amorim and him not being able to turn things around, like the squad he's taken over is
horrendous.
It's horrendous,
right,
but it's miles better than what Eddie Howe took over. It's miles better than what Unai Emery took over. It's miles better than what Iriola took over. It's miles better than what Marco
Where's the talent, right?
So if this guy is the guy, he should be able to make this squad work.
It's not just about the players' talent. You have to factor in the intangibles of attitudes, and not just one person.
Down to management, though. You can change attitudes with management.
It's not just
Rashford. If you've got
Rashford.
the talent, you can change everything else with management.
There's not just one poisoned apple in there. There's many, right? The next poisoned apple is Casemiro, who just got a new contract of 350 grand a week. He came in on 280, and they gave him another fucking rebuild on that to 350. And that geezer is nowhere near the player that he was 5 years ago. He wasn't the player when they signed him. They signed an old guy anyway of Real Madrid or Spanish fame. And he comes in and he's lazy and he's lackadaisical. And for some ridiculous reason, they decided to reward him with a new contract for 350 grand a week. That geezer is not going to fit into Amorim's system. So it's not just about finding a new home for Rashford, who hasn't got any obligation to move. Yeah, Casemiro is going to be the most stubborn king pawn you've ever seen. He's a pawn, but he's a king in terms of salary and influence. He ain't going anywhere. And I'm sorry, if Manchester United and bless him, Ruben Amorim thinks they're going to be.
I get everything you're saying, but if you then decided that Casemiro wants to play, his legs are gone, he can no longer play in the system, he's got to play part of the back three if that's what keeps him happy. That is a manager problem. You have to find that solution.
And Ruben Amorim is not experienced. Ruben Amorim has got absolutely zero experience in dealing with that level of problem. It's a poison chalice. Amorim will fail at United. He's a great manager, but just like everyone that thinks that Tottenham is a poison chalice, Manchester United, let's be honest. United fans' expectations of their club are sensationally overstretched. versus the reality. The reality is that United had 2 great managers in their entire existence. One of them was 60 years ago, and the other one was Sir Alex Ferguson. And ever since Ferguson moved on, there's been a poison chalice, another failure. All these guys go there, they get paid their millions, and they end up walking away. It's the easiest money they'll ever make because you know what? No one can ever live up to the great Sir Alex Ferguson, whose last great swan dance was 2012, right? Yeah. 11 years ago, 12 years ago. Sorry, if you think that Ruben Amorim has got enough about him as a youthful, dynamic, unorthodox managerial policy, he's come in and he hasn't even he hasn't even tried to work with what he's got. He's another example of another manager that comes in and says, "I'm used to playing a certain way, and I need everybody else to figure me out rather than me figure you out."
What are you saying, Sean? Then should he be sacked?
Managers are lazy these days, mate. They can't even be bothered to go. I need to think of something. I need to think of something different. They all do the same shit. This is what worked for me here. I need everybody else to jump to my tune. And you know what? At Manchester United, it ain't going to work for him like it didn't work for any of the previous 8. It's going to be a giant failure. And Man United are in a relegation battle very soon. Promise you that.
I agree. They're in a relegation dogfight, and that's the thing. That's another thing I've said is that until they change the culture at the club, it's not going to change. The same again. Chaotic decisions, chaotic outcomes, and that's what you're going to get.
I don't get just quickly though for Mitch and Sean, the hate on Amorim, fine, but what are we saying? He should be sacked like he's been there 2 minutes. He might be terrible, but you can't get rid of him now.
No, I'm not saying he's terrible. I think he's a brilliant manager. I'm just saying, why the fuck did he join them?
Oh,
this is Man United.
My point on it was I don't see how he turns this around at all. So his points tally up to this point since he's taken over isn't going to change. So technically, they're in a relegation battle. The same way technically Nottingham Forest are in a title challenge.
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that.
Well, they are. They're the closest team to Liverpool. Why are they not? They're either in a title challenge or it's a one-man title.
Technically, there's a title challenge. I don't think there's a title challenge. I think Liverpool are going to win this league by 25 points. I think it's going to be an absolute, it's going to be the easiest walk in the park for them ever. There's never been a season. The last time the league looked like this was the Leicester 2016-17 season. And in that particular season,
that was completely different. There was 4 teams on a similar amount of points at this time in the league. Liverpool is 7 points clear right now.
No, okay, but I'm saying so you're exaggerating my point for me then, right? The last time it ever looked anything like this, where the big boys were all universally going through their own levels of shit, was back then, and Leicester were the ultimate winners. Yeah. Look what happened to Leicester. That wasn't like a changing of the guard. That was a fluke anomaly, and they got relegated 2 seasons later, right? So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that Liverpool are not the fluke. Liverpool are just the benefit of a team that have everything together, and that Jurgen Klopp was one of the best managers that will ever exist, and that managed to make them compete with the other big boys before the rules were, or whilst the rules were changing, but Liverpool never broke the rules. In fact, if anything, you could make the argument that Liverpool were absolutely incredible at competing within the rules, whilst they weren't financially competing on the same levels at all, because of people like Jurgen Klopp and because of Liverpool's draw and because they had this ability to pick the very best players that were coming up at the right time. And they were also perfectly positioned when they sold the boy Coutinho and they utilized that money to bring in the players that they needed. It was just a perfect system for them then, that then built them forward for what we see now. And Jurgen Klopp left them in a brilliant place. He fucked off. They brought in the best guy ever. And this guy is just, he hasn't had to catch a falling knife, which a lot of people thought it was going to be. Instead, it's a snowball that's rolling down the hill. And all he's got to do is just lean on it, because the target is down the hill, not up the hill. And the reason why the target is down the hill is because United are a fucking shit show. Chelsea are a complete weird anomaly that haven't quite figured it out, and they won't until next season get to that chance where they're competitive again. Manchester City have screwed up royally with their transfer policy. massively fucked up there. They didn't need to do anything like that, but they have. They have what they've done. And there's nobody else. And Arsenal are just Arsenal, right? The Arsenal are the perennial Tottenham, just a little bit above them, the general bottlers. So Liverpool are the recipient of a wonderful situation, just like Leicester. But Leicester were unique in that they were a nobody. But Liverpool have all of the memory, all of their recent historical bias to go, we know what we're doing here. And this is going to be a fucking walk in the park. Liverpool are going to win this league by 20 points. 100 quid to anyone who wants to take that bet on.
Well, it's looking like that now, especially with Chelsea in
It
points.
will look even more like it in 2 months' time. There's no one going to challenge Liverpool by a country mile. Guarantee it.
All right, let's get on to the last topics. This is Sean. So this is the last part of the show, and this is where we pick on Chris because he's the ref. VAR, right? So we're going to look at 3 incidents that happened over the festive period, and Chris, you can explain them to the reason why they were not overturned or why they were overturned. So let's go to the first one. Mitch, I'm going to start with you because this was against Newcastle. Duran's red card. Should it have been a red card?
Watching in real time, I probably would have said no. But as soon as I saw the replay, I thought, yeah, he's got to go. And nothing has said anything to me otherwise that says any other way than it's a red card. I've seen arguments against it. I've heard them. I'm not accepting it whatsoever. It's a red. He stamps on him twice. In fact, he stamps on him 3 times. Once with the left, 2 with the right. He's got to go.
Sink?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with Mitch. And in real time, it didn't look anything obvious. But when you look at the replays, he's tried to make it look like dark arts, but he's just been naughty and he's been caught and he deserves to be sent off.
You feel like it's not. He doesn't do it by accident at all.
Nah.
No, I think it started off as an accident, and then I thought it looks like I can play on this in that instant. It looked like the first one was an accident, and then I can make it look like an accident, and then no, you got found out. That's how I saw it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The first one, I don't think he meant intentional. It's just legs got tangled. But as soon as he trod on there, he made absolutely no effort to avoid any contact. And just walked over him. Yeah, he got everything he deserves.
Sean, have you seen it?
No, I didn't see this one. So I'm not going to pass judgment.
I'm totally the opposite to you 3. I thought it was an accident and the follow through came. When he followed through, it was all accidental and legs got tangled. I didn't think it was a red card at all.
Nah, mate, I'm not having it. Even the first one with his left foot, his leg is straight when he lands on Fabian Schär. No one ever wants to land straight-legged. The second one, his right foot is going to miss Schär, and he brings it in.
No.
It hits his hamstring, and then he hits his back as well, just for good measure.
Oh, and that second stomp, he could have avoided. He could have stepped to the side. If he wanted to avoid standing on him, he could have stepped.
I don't think he could because his of how fast and emotion he was going.
His foot was missing Schär,
doesn't help.
And he pulled it back in and got him twice more.
Yeah,
bruv, come on, this.
No,
yeah,
you're just
it's too obvious for
what
me.
we've seen in the last couple of weeks. No. Come on. For what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, you're saying this is a red card. Come on.
That's the way it looks, Marlon. It looks very unnatural as a stumble to me.
It does. I think it looks very natural, and I just kind of feel like it was.
Like I said, the first connection that he makes, that looks like a genuine mistake, and then after that, to me, it looks like I'm going to play on this. I can make this look like an accident, and he's purposely stood on him.
One thing I've always said in incidents like this is look at the player reaction.
Yeah.
The Newcastle players go nuts, and not a single Aston Villa player wants to back John Duran in this.
I give you that. I will give you that.
No one wants to back him.
I do give you that. No. Yeah. I do give you that. Go on, Chris. Explain it.
I mean, the explanation is fairly simple, right? In the sense of you've just got to decide whether you think that's a deliberate act or not. If you do, it's a red card. If you don't, it's not. I mean, that's the explanation. If you want my personal view, I was pretty shocked by the general consensus there. So much so, I've just loaded it up in the background and watched it again.
Thank you.
I'm surprised that people think that's deliberate. If you look at his left foot, it's slipping. He's not in control of where he's landing, so he's slipping.
Do you have a link that you can drop into the chat there, mate, so I can have a look on my own? Because I haven't seen the actual incident. I'd love to have a look myself.
It's in the sort of private chat. I've just sent it to you in there. I can't get it into the YouTube chat.
That's fine. Then.
Just Google on Sky Sports, mate. John, Sky Sports.
Yeah, no, I'll see it right now. Here you
go. Yeah, it's one of these, isn't it? We have a lot of these where it kind of splits opinion, and therefore there's no definitive correct decision. And that's what I always say to you guys.
I'm shocked with you three. Like,
I was Marlon. For
Richie,
me,
I get. See, I'm shocked because you, of all people, I thought was going to be on my side. Mitch, I'm not surprised with that because
I am baffled. This isn't a full house of red cards.
No,
right now.
if this was a Spurs player, anyone else, right, you lot would have said, it's an accident, this, that, and the other. But this clearly, I thought was clearly the leg. I just couldn't see how it was a red. I thought it was a clear yellow.
I was having a fantastic Christmas until this point, you know. You lot ruined it for me. My festive period is done.
The first contact for me. So the first contact for me is a mistake. The second one, it's like he's frustrated with the whole situation and he's trying to take advantage of the situation. I feel like he could have avoided the second stamp. That's from
to be fair. I would like to add a little bit of context to everything that's gone on before this point. You could already see him getting wound up. He had been getting bullied the whole game. He got told by little Luca Dean, "Go away, I'm taking this free kick." And then a couple of minutes later, this happens. Yeah. He was on his way to a red card from minute one. And he got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah. I think on the player reaction, because I talk about that a lot.
Nah, it's the yellow card at most.
See?
Yeah, I don't disagree. On the player reaction, if you look at Duran as well, immediately he shows concern for the player, which is really unusual if you've just committed an act of violent conduct against him.
No, it's not.
It's an element of
my favourite trick.
If there's
my favourite trick. If I want to hurt you, I apologise. If I don't mean to hurt you, I will tell you.
I don't know what the...
I'm rubbing your head and saying, "Sorry, bro," waving to the ref and saying, "My bad," and I'm walking away. That is what you do when you go to hurt a guy in a football match.
If there's an element of like a previous spiciness in the game or whatever, where he's frustrated, maybe you could make the assumption, but it's still an assumption. But it doesn't. That picture that you've got in the actual screenshot there next to John Duran's name, it looks like that's a horrendous. That's a horrendous. That's what VAR does, right? They'll put that would be like if he was sent to the he wasn't, but if he was sent to the camera, that would be the first sort of screenshot that he'd be seen before they played the replay. It doesn't look in real time like it's malicious. Yeah. I don't think.
In real time it doesn't, but then when you slow it down and look at the replays, for me, the first stamp accident, the second one.
I love that. I love that. They've been criticised all season, referees, for watching slow-mo. But now when it suits, it's like if you watch it in slow-mo.
The thing is, not every single situation is the same, though. Not every situation is the same, because as you can look at that one, you can see the first contact is a mistake, but that second one, you cannot say that second one is a mistake. You can't.
I mean, he's mid-air, like, I don't know. But can I just make one point? One of my favourite points to make all the time.
No, hold on. He hasn't. Ian, the second contact is him like looking to land his foot somewhere, and there's a giant body that's in the way. I'm not sure what he can do with the second bit.
Why is no one else seeing this?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I've looked at this replay so many times.
If I'm a Villa fan in that scenario, I'm fuming. I'll be honest. That's why. If I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be.
If you're a Tottenham fan and there's Van der Ven on the floor in that scenario, what are you doing in that situation?
Yeah, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why
where else? He's probably going, where am I supposed to put my foot? There's an 8 foot
literally anywhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's nowhere where he can.
Anywhere
There's
else,
nowhere where he
not
can
trust
land his. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Nah,
Marlon, can I just make
Go on.
one closing point on this, which I always like to make in defence of referees, which is, when we're all criticising them about, they should be more consistent. When you've got a group of fans like you guys who can't, like, who are they supposed to be consistent with? Like,
Well, this is why we bring this up every week. This is why we do this, because it's weird, because most of the time we do genuinely agree, but this, I think, when I saw it and I knew where Mitch was going with it, I completely disagreed with it at the time. I'm totally admit I'm surprised with Sink. Stocky, I'm not surprised with. I'm surprised that Chris, you agreed with me,
Wait.
and now that Sean's seen it, I'm not surprised Sean's on my side.
Okay.
I don't know
Let
where
me
he's
just
supposed
say
to put his
one more thing before we close out on this year. Just so assume John Duran has 6 studs on each of his boots, yeah? In this situation, he has studded Fabian Schär 18 times. Are you fucking kidding me? That's not a red card.
Look, Mitch,
It's not his fault. Fabian Schär's one of the broadest pieces in the game. Like, the guy's rolling over into every part of his landing gear. Like, what are you supposed to do? Well, where is his right foot supposed to land that doesn't hit his
got him
body?
with all 6 studs on both boots and twice with one of his boots, and you're telling me it's not a red card?
I'm just saying, where is he supposed to land? Where is his right foot supposed to land in that slow mo?
At least one of them.
further to the right.
At least one of them, a couple of the studs have to miss. At least.
Here's what I would say. I would say if it was a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity, then it's a no brainer. But the fact that he's drifting off to the left hand side, the fact that there's like plenty of play left, even if that tackle doesn't happen, even if John Duran gets gets through. Oh, sorry, even if the Newcastle guy gets through, I'm sitting there thinking, like,
just on the law,
there's other things at play here. Like, where's the scenario where
he's not been sent off for that? So on the point of law, what he's been sent off for, that where it is on the pitch is irrelevant. He's been sent off for what is deemed as an act of violent conduct, right? Which I don't agree with it.
Fair enough, yeah, and I don't agree with that.
But what I would say as well, the only last point I'd make on this, and this is where people get frustrated with me as someone sort of defending referees, I think a red card or not a red card is justifiable as a decision. I don't think every football decision is one thing. And this is an example of, it just depends on your opinion, and it depends on the opinion of the referee. If he thinks it's deliberate, a red card is justifiable. If he thinks it's not, a yellow card is, or even less, even just not a free kick is justifiable. So I don't always think it has to be one thing or the other.
I concur.
I actually thought this was a bad suggestion because I thought it was such a one-way decision that you guys are baffled me.
Beauty of VAR.
It's nice to have a good split, though. This is what Marlon wanted. He's been wanting this for months. He wanted a 50-50 split.
Spot on, I did. All right, second one. I generally think we might all agree on this one. This was West Ham v Southampton on, was it last Saturday? I can't even remember.
Yeah.
And it's a foul on Cole Walker-Peters, but he goes in 2 feet, but he looks like he kind of doesn't touch him. He kind of backs out of it to think, but he got sent off at first, and he was sent to the VAR screen. Question, Mitch, I'll start with you again. Was there intent, and should it have stayed a red card?
No, this is the one where I'm going to go against everything I believe in as a human being, that all officials are useless and they get so much stuff wrong, that they were immaculate here. It's spot on. The refs got it wrong on the pitch, which goes with everything. I agree with. Refs are genuinely rubbish. But he's been sent to the screen by VAR. He's looked at it. Gilda Rodriguez has gone in a little bit similar to Martinez against Palace. Nowhere near the player. Slipped and then slightly, I said similar, not the same, but similar, slipped and caught Walker-Peters, yellow card.
Yeah.
Think?
Yeah, I'd agree with. I thought they got this one right. At first, it looks like it was a possible red, but then when they've looked at it again, they've seen that he's tried to pull out. He's tried to maintain control. He's tried to keep his studs to the ground and not aiming at Carl Walter Peters. So I would agree and say that this was a good VAR decision, well officiated on the game.
The only thing I would like to say is where I said it's similar to Martinez. In this situation, Gildo Rodriguez pulled out of what he was doing
Where
rather than the
obviously,
other player pulling out. Martinez didn't pull out. The player he was trying to tackle pulled out, which is what saved him.
Stocky, quickly, because this one was on. This was your player.
Yeah. Do you know what? I can totally see why the ref give it as a red straight away. But it's an excellent intervention with VAR because he pulls out at the end. He knows he's nowhere near it. Pulls out his feet, and it was well reviewed. But I can see why the ref would give a red straight away because
I agree.
Daft.
Yeah, Sean, you seen this one before we go on to the last one?
I did see it, and I actually agree with everything. I think we're all in consensus.
I think the reason why we brought this up, especially this week, and before Chris tells us the exact reason, is because actually VAR can work positively in some shape or form once in a while. Chris?
Just a couple of minor points on it. I totally agree. I can understand why the referee gave it. We talked about intent, so intent actually isn't relevant. As the tackling player, you have an onus to tackle safely, and that includes kind of going slightly into the last clip, but it includes slipping and things like that. So if you remember, as two other Spurs fans on here, Romero's red card against Chelsea last season, where he actually wins the ball and then goes
ruined our season, ruined Ange's career at Tottenham. That one, that was the genesis for everything falling apart. By the way,
that's a red card. And Curtis Jones got sent off for Liverpool against Tottenham for a very similar thing, right?
But 4 other times that the same season, the same wasn't shown in other areas. The same. There was lots of examples.
That's what the law says. Right? Intent isn't really relevant. It's does he endanger the opponent? But what happens here is, he slipped. But if he then went in high and made contact with his knee, for example, it probably would be a red card. But he doesn't. He slides on the floor. So what level is it to send him off? It's got to be excessive force, and he's got to be endangering the safety of an opponent. And I don't think he does here in either of them. So, I can totally see in real time because things happen super fast. We don't appreciate when you're watching it on TV, when you're on the pitch, how quickly things are happening around you is mental. So how quickly it happens, I can understand why the ref sent him off. But 100%, I don't think it should be, and it was a good intervention for me.
Okay, cool. Next, the big one. The big one. João Pedro. I can't remember the guy's name who came on for, Brentford at the time. But he intentionally tries to elbow the guy, or we think he does, but misses.
Yeah.
Mitchie. Should it have been a red card?
This massively confuses me here because I cannot understand how they've looked at this and not considered it as violent conduct. Like in what part of attempting to elbow someone in the face in any walk of life, unless you're in the UFC, that is the only time it's not considered like an illegal act on what you're doing. I don't understand whether you miss. This is basically like saying, right, there's a melee of 10 players and I'm trying to knock someone out, but I've missed. But it's okay because I didn't punch them in the face and break their nose.
100%.
Like, how does that make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense. It's the difference between murder and accidental death. Intent is everything in life. If you intend, and I think that there's a clear from my memory. I haven't obviously. I'm looking at the specifics here, but from my memory of seeing it briefly on Sky Sports, there was nothing to take away from the idea that the intention was there. If you intend to hurt someone and you get lucky, or they get lucky and you don't, that doesn't mean that you didn't mean to beat them up, break their head, whatever. Right? Let's sort of let's just use some sort of ridiculous comparison here. But Rodrigo Bentancur was banned for 7 games for an unorthodox use of a racial slur that was not acceptable in any way, but in an environment that was in his home, and all these things that were just sort of slightly sort of nuanced in their environment, but he misses 7 games. This geezer doesn't miss a single minute of football, but tries to break the guy's jaw. Right? Just because you missed doesn't mean that you didn't intend to do what you did. And I think that intention is every part of the reason why there is a difference between spending your life in prison for killing someone or only getting a slap on the wrist if you didn't mean to at all. But this guy tried to hurt this man, and because he didn't affect it, because he missed it, he doesn't get any culpability. It's absolutely bonkers to me. Bonkers.
Literally, the only thing I would rather someone didn't do to me to hurt me in my face is a flying knee. I'd rather you try and punch me, kick me, headbutt me, anything else. Elbow and flying knee are the only two things above all of that stuff. That is massively, massively dangerous for anybody that's ever boxed or done anything above like any kind of contact, physical sport where it involves trying to hit someone. Elbows are a massively dangerous thing. So for him to get away from this is crazy for me.
Go on, Stucky.
I was seething when I saw this because we've all played against wrong-uns that he stopped to turn around to look at him and plant it. It's not like he's flailing an arm. He turned around and planted it. And just for a bit of comparison, as Sean said, he's not going to miss a minute of football. Kuda's got 4 games for waving his hands in people's faces and shoving people.
Oi.
And this,
Oi.
yeah, I know he deserved
Against
it.
Spurs, so I'm not allowing that.
Yeah, no, he deserved it for being stupid, but that is just wrong. I think it should be looked at the FA and proper slap him.
So
Okay.
he
shouldn't just get 3 games. He should get 10. Just because you missed, you're lucky. No, you're not lucky. You're going to get served anyway. The geezer, number 18, he's lucky that he wasn't on the receiving end of what could have been a life-changing injury because of that geezer's intention to hurt you for whatever reason.
If he makes contact, that shatters his orbital bone, by the way.
100%,
That shatters
100%. It's outrageous if any other outcome than a significant ban. Bring up Rodrigo Betancourt misses 7 games because he called he said they all look the same, and it was a mate. Terrible, like racism. I'm not excusing it, and he deserved his ban. But what are we doing here? What are we doing here in terms of like comparables? Words, 7 games. This geezer misses by an inch. The guy would be in hospital still 2 weeks later. Come on now, if the FA doesn't step in there, then I've lost all faith in what we're supposed to be doing as a footballing society when it comes to the bigger picture, the message. It's just not okay with me.
Sink?
Okay, so for me, it's a red card by the rules of the game. It's a red card. But what's more pressing for me as like a grassroots coach is that obviously kids are going to watch this over Christmas, and these are the kind of things that we're trying to stamp out to make sure it doesn't filter down to grassroots level. Because if a kid sees this, he's going to think it's all right, and he's going to think it's all right for him to lash out because he's frustrated in a certain situation. Whereas these type of things, and I hope other coaches, because I'll bring up these things all the time with my players, and I hope other coaches do as well, and just rubber stamp that these kind of things are not ever appropriate in our game at all. I just hope that's the one main thing that I want to take out of this. It should have been a red, but also the example that it's setting for the young grassroots kids that will pick this stuff up, and they do it.
Yeah, 100%. And before Chris jumping in, I'm pretty sure the wording is something along the lines of excessive force or attempted use of excessive force, whether or not you make contact.
Chris?
I might be slightly wrong on the wording, but I'm sure.
Yeah, you're not far off. Confusing two slightly different things. Excessive force is about whether you show a red or yellow. The actual offence is strikes or attempts to strike, which he does. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. It's not a normal act on a football field, so I don't really know how you can come to any other conclusion. What can be difficult for an official is sometimes, this isn't really one of those cases, but when players are just jumping for the ball and they go, oh, he's elbowed him, and has he elbowed him, or is he just jumping for the ball? That can be hard, but I'll do a little trick with you guys that I used to do on the referee courses I used to do years ago. So if you go to jump for the ball, so if you all pretend right now you're just going to jump to challenge for the ball in the air, right, and you lift your arms up like that for leverage. Go on, play along, guys. Lift your arms up like
giving
that.
it some.
Mate, I did it just to get comfortable in my chair. That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get comfortable in my chair right now. You know, that's what I'm doing.
I used to do it on
By the
sinking
challenge,
training.
you get to play along with the referee. Come on. So when you're doing that, right, when you're jumping, what are you doing with your hands? Your hands open, right?
Yeah.
Now, pretend there's a guy behind you and you want to elbow him in the face, and then just hold your hand at the point of contact with his face.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest that probably all of you have got your fist closed right now.
Yep.
Because you put effort in. You don't do that when you're jumping for the ball, but when you these are one of the things. It's not foolproof. It's not 100%. Oh my God, he's got a closed fist. He must be going for him. But it's one of the many things we would use to look for as a kind of what is his intent there. And I've just seen a still which shows Pedro with his fist closed like that, looking at the player. The only thing that puzzles me is how has he missed him? Like, it seems so easy to hit him if he wanted to. I don't know how he's managed to miss, but
hey, listen. If he was that good at making the connection, he'd be playing at a bigger team than Brighton. Like,
Real Madrid. But you know what though? I think I've looked at it a few times, and I feel that a little part of me feels like he's just actually just trying to scare him because of the space that's there. I think he's just trying to say to him, like in an aggressive way.
Next time,
next time I'm going to actually lamp
because he looks up first.
I'm not buying.
Even if that is true,
even if he has only just done that, it still is a red card.
It's still a red card, but
I don't care if you're just trying to fake or whatever. That violent conduct is not acceptable at all in our game.
The only thing I would say in addition is I don't think now there'll be any action against him because the FA don't want to be seen to be re-refereeing, right? And you've already had the referee and the VAR both make a judgment that it wasn't.
The FA were okay to step in and slap Bentancur with a 7-game ban for things that didn't even happen on the pitch.
Yeah, but that wasn't refereed, was it? There was no decision on that initially, so I don't think they'll overrule it. But I think you probably will get Howard Webb on his show with Michael Owen or Leon Osman going, yeah, that should have been a red card.
See, as much as I agree with that, they shouldn't be re-reffing things after if both have looked at it. This is one where they should.
They should. Because it just sets an example.
Turn around and go, you know what? That's just not acceptable. Everybody involved has made a mistake here. We need to clamp down. It's not a tackle that can be given into some kind of judgment call either way. It is just matter of fact. Yeah. It should have been a red card. And actually, it's a form of GBH if he catches him in the face. So they should make an example out of him so that everybody across the world of football knows
that's
not unacceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. Normally, sometimes when referees make errors, I could sit here and go, yeah, he's got it wrong, but I can understand from my experience that how he's got there. And to be fair, that the referee might have just missed it, right? That's possible for anything. But I don't know how you can watch that as VAR and come to the conclusion that, I mean, they kind of made some waffly nonsense about, he didn't make contact and the player didn't have to make evasive action. That's utter rubbish. Like,
not by the rules of the game.
Really weird. Really weird. So whoever was on VAR there needs some serious talking to on that. Do you want me just to address Brian's question, Marlon?
Go on.
The honest answer is I need a little bit more context. So the question is, if you tackle someone, not a nasty challenge, and then you immediately pull him down when he's getting up and trying to run into a 4-on-1. It depends. I mean, into a 4-on-1, you're not going to get sent off for pulling someone down. It depends on the context of where it is on the field. So you're suggesting he's running into a 4-on-1. Like if it's back on the halfway line, you might get away with it. It depends how clear that opportunity is. If it's down by the penalty area and it's outside the area, you've pulled him back and there's an obvious 4-on-1, then yeah, you get sent off for. On the halfway line, it all depends, mate. It all depends on the context of where the covering players are, where the direction of the ball is. Do you have possession of the ball? there's an awful lot more to it than just being able to answer the question directly. If you've got a clip and you want to send it to me on Twitter or whatever, I'll have a look at it. But
Chris, we don't want you to have any sort of level of real, objective analysis here. We want you to be entirely speculative and just say things that we can all lean into about later on and go, that wasn't what you said last time.
Yeah.
What answer does Brian? What we were defending on the halfway line. He was the only attacker. So you're the defending team. Therefore, you presumably don't want him sent off. So yeah, not a red card then in that case. if that helps.
Smart man. Smart man.
Guys, thank you so much. We've actually gone longer than we normally do, so blame you, Sean. But
I apologise for my robust.
Thank
you for having me, man. Marla, I've never been on. I don't think I've been on your show for like a year
for
or
a
half.
year now. Yeah.
It's a pleasure, man. I really enjoyed it and lovely to meet all of you guys, man. It's been sensational. Thank you for having me.
Sean, we'll have to bring you back when it's me and Ash for the Spurs lot. We'll have to bring you back.
I'm not sure I'm welcome on the Spurs show. Am I?
Well, you're welcome on ours. We always get someone to help you out, Sean. Don't worry.
I'm fine. I'm fine making a nuisance of myself just by myself. I don't need support. It's all good. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you all. It's been a lovely little end to the evening. Thank you for having me, guys.
Nice one, Sean.
Stocky and Mitch, where can people find you quickly? I've put your link in the description as well.
Well, we are on Where the Owls Sleep on YouTube. We're trying to do as many shows as we possibly can at the minute. The next one will be Friday, which will be a preview show for next weekend's games.
Sync, still no socials for you, I take it. So skip past. You're here with us on a Monday doing the Premier League stuff.
Just here on a Monday.
Chris, X.
Yeah, just that, and cropping up occasionally when people ask me to jump on the odd Spurs channel here and there, but mainly just moaning about refereeing decisions on Twitter. Yeah, Spurs CC.
Yeah, and everyone knows where Sean is. He's at the Spurs Talk Show. Got anything to plug that you're coming up this week? Oh, and by the way, if any Spurs fan that hasn't seen the video of Sean at the stadium, I watched it today. Very, very, very insightful, actually, into how the stadium is thinking. Even though it's in one stand, as Chris said. But next time you have to go around to the other side, Sean.
No, I've actually got two or three. I did 2 or 3 other versions of that.
Oh, okay.
I haven't brought them out yet.
They're the Ange out versions, are they? You just click them to make it like they're in one.
No, I don't clip anything, man. It's one take Tottenham. It's what I like to do. I like to just roll with it, like, because I think that those things. That's the problem, Chris. Right? So I genuinely feel like when you see these videos, it doesn't matter who's doing it or what you never know what the agenda is, but. If you see it on BBC News or Channel 4 News, right, when it's maybe about politics, Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whatever, you might see like 15 clips of random people in the street that they ask, but you don't know whether they asked 100 people and they picked the 15 that all said what they wanted to say, right? So I'm like, well, fuck all that. Screw all that. Let's just start a video ad hoc and just walk down the high street or walk down the road or whatever and just see what comes up. And on that particular video that I put out, there was no one that happened to feel strongly against Levy or strongly against Ange. But I got a couple of.
If I knew you were doing it, Sean, I'd have come round myself and got involved, and I'd give you the content you wanted. But,
Chris, go around. But actually, the one guy, there was that one guy who did say he didn't care who came in and he didn't care where the money came from, but his mate was completely different. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a cool way of doing it. I didn't. By the way, it was literally like I'd just done my emotional rant where I was like furious with Ange and stuff, and I went downstairs and I was like, let's see what happens here. Pulled the camera out and just did it. But like I say, I did two others on the way out of the stadium. They just weren't as good content. But going forward, I think that's something that I think I might lean into. Just randomly, just press record and just walk and see what happens, and then put it out there because I think it's the best way of seeing like an impromptu snapshot of what Tottenham fans feel. But listen, there's loads of things coming out on the Spurs Talk Show. Bugsy Malone's got her own Instagram account now, and I think that she's the reason why most people come to see me. And I'm worried that I might lose access if I put too much of her on the screen. But you know what? She's a dog, and she is actually the real draw. But thank you for having me, man. Marlon, pleasure. listen, like I said before, you guys are. I don't know you guys, but you seem like a really cool crew. So I'd love to share the screen with you again.
Thank you so much. As always, look, you'll find me and even Sean on Last Word on Spurs as well over the next, I'm hoping in the next month or so as well. So please catch us both on there. Me and Ash are going to be doing our normal weekly show on Wednesday this week for a one time only because we haven't streamed for 2 weeks. So we're doing it Wednesday. So make sure you tune into that just to get our Ash's views on the festive period and the tactics that Ange has been using. However, as always, come on you Spurs. You can fuck off up there at the top with your come on you irons. Mitch, well done for beating Man United.
You next week, mate. You next week. Don't worry about that.
But as always, come on you Spurs.